Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Alon Schonberger. I will present Excellence of Strategic Suppliers, and let's start. So, the famous aphorism claims that the customer is always right. And I want to ask you, what is your opinion about this famous saying? Do you agree with this? If you do, please raise your hand. Who doesn't agree? So, don't agree. Okay, thank you for this poll. Well, when we think about it, the customer is not always right. Yet, this saying is very important because it directs companies and organizations towards the desired goal. Now, when we say that the customer is right, we don't literally mean that he's right. What we really mean is that we want him to be satisfied. And since it is not always the case, we want to do something about it, take some actions, and make him satisfied. So at this point, we recognize and understand that satisfaction is a major factor in the world of companies. So please remember this term, satisfaction, because we return later on to this term. Companies should focus on the customers because the customers, in many cases, are the source of income and revenue. More than that, satisfied customers will bring additional customers, while unsatisfied customers might reduce their purchases and influence other customers to do the same. Yet, I'm here to argue that despite of the importance of this approach, it is not enough. There's also another wing, another direction, and this is what I present now. This wing is the suppliers, and especially the strategic suppliers. And let me explain you why. In order to manufacture and assemble this car in the picture, we need, do you know how many parts? Maybe dozens of thousands of parts, a lot. And these parts are manufactured and supplied by thousands of suppliers. So it's a complex operation. Companies like Rafael choose to focus on the design, the assembly, and the final testing, while other activities are outsourced to external providers. The value of the purchased items can reach 50%, sometimes even 80% out of the total value of the product. Sorry. Therefore, it is evident that the suppliers has a significant impact on the performance of the company and on the quality of the final product. And more than that, the performance of the suppliers is highly dependent on the way we manage them. So, how to manage the suppliers in a successful manner? There are a few approaches, and I will present a few, and later on, the best one that we adopted at Rafael. So the first approach was introduced and suggested by Pareto. He suggested to defer to the costs and to the spends, to rank all the spends from high to low, as can be seen on this chart, and allocate 80% of the effort and time to the high 20% of the spends, and the remaining 80% of time and effort to all the others. So despite this advantage of this approach, also known as the 80-20 rule or the law of the vital few, and for example, it is applicable in many areas of our life. For example, we wear maybe 80% of the time the same 20% of the clothes. Yet, when referring to suppliers management, this approach has a significant drawback. And this drawback is the risk of hidden showstoppers that can lie on the right side of this chart in the long tail. For example, when paragliding, the canopy is attached to the harness by two carabiners, two only, one on the right side and one on the left side. The total cost of these carabiners is less than 1% out of the total cost of the paragliding system. Yet, it will be a mistake not to pay the adequate attention when buying this critical item. Another approach is referring to the procurement routes and the nature of the project. So we have here 4 families. The first one is build to spec or build to specification. In this route, we provide the supplier general specifications, and the supplier, via an engineering process, converts them into blueprints and products. Then we have the build to print family. In this case, we, the buying company, make the design and provide the supplier blueprints, and the supplier manufactures the items and supplies them to us. In both of these cases, it is very important to include and attach to the contract general requirements and quality requirements. These set the level of the product and the quality level of the product. Missing requirements will lead to a non-compliant product, while excess requirements will lead to excess work and cost without added value, and therefore should be avoided. So in these 2 routes, the design, according to Rafael, is made by the buying company. The third family refers to shelf items or catalog items. In this case, the design and the manufacturing is done by the supplier and his subcontractors, and we buy them as is. And the fourth family is the family of service and support. In this case, services refer to engineering services, but also to logistic services such as transportation and catering and so on. So this approach refers to technology and to the procurement route and to the nature of the contract, but still we feel that something is missing. And this gap is solved by the next approach that I present here. This is the approach by Peter Carlich that was introduced about 40 years ago. He suggested to refer to the items and the suppliers as a bundle and to refer to 2 factors, each of them with 2 levels. The first factor is the factor of profit and contribution to the final product and to the company. And we draw this factor on the vertical axis from low to high. On the horizontal axis, we find the risk. And the risk is related to sub-factors such as the complexity of the market, unique technology, monopoly, geopolitical considerations, sole source, and things like that. So with 2 factors and 2 levels, we obtain 4 categories. We call this segmentation. And the categories are non-critical or routine items with low risk and low contribution, leverage items with low risk and high contribution, bottleneck items with high risk and low contribution, and strategic items and strategic suppliers. Strategic suppliers is the most challenging group. It is characterized by sophisticated products, by balanced power between the supplier and the buying company, and by mutual dependency. Now, in order to better understand this segmentation process, let's consider a practical example of an electric car. And for this purpose, I prepared a small game, and I will need your cooperation and assistance to succeed in this game. So on the right side, we have representative items of the car, and on the left side, we have Carlich matrix. Now we have to bring each item to the adequate quadrant. Okay? So let's start. What will be the first item? Need your cooperation and assistance. Let's start with the bolts. What is the adequate quadrant for the bolts? Who is brave, bold, and can? Bottom left, non-critical items. 12 points. Okay, so we check the answer. and we see that there's a problem. Excuse me, if you can fix it, because the width is wrong, it doesn't go to the right place. No, okay, never mind. So the adequate quadrant is the, as you said, non-critical items, and we continue. The bolts are standard products with low cost relatively, so many suppliers can provide them, so the risk is low and the contribution is relatively low, so non-critical items, this is the right quadrant. So next we continue with this representative part. It represents the body of the car. So what would be the adequate quadrant for the body of the car? It is made of aluminum and steel. So according to our segmentation, it goes to the upper left quadrant, which is the leverage items. And the reason is that it is manufactured by well-established technology, and there are many suppliers, so the risk is low, but their price is high. So the total contribution or the total cost out of the total cost of the final product is significant. Next, we have this module. It represents, for example, an immobilizer. So in this case, the immobilizer is a bottleneck item, and the reason for that is that it includes a few scarce chips that are difficult to achieve nowadays. And therefore, although the cost of this module is not so high, but without this module, we cannot sell the car. Without the immobilizer, we cannot sell the car. Therefore, it is a bottleneck item. It poses risk to the production and to the sales. And next, what is the quadrant for the electric batteries? There's only one left, blank. So it shouldn't be so difficult. Okay, so this is the strategic item and the strategic supplier. And why? Because although batteries are common items that we use in our daily life, these batteries are different. They make the difference between a car that is capable of a short ride in the neighborhood and the capability of crossing all Israel from north to south, which is, by the way, 500 kilometers, that's all, in a single continuous ride without the need to recharge. So customers prefer to buy the car because of this capability. The performance of the batteries reflect directly on the performance of the final product. And the opposite is also true. If we have malfunction, failures, and safety issues like fire, then it will detriment customers from buying this product. So therefore, the contribution is very high. In addition, these batteries are a result of co-creation between the supplier and the buying company. The supplier uses a unique technology in order to achieve this high-dense electric content of the battery, and it is a sole source. So from all these reasons, we understand that this is a strategic item and a strategic supplier. So now we understood the segmentation process and saw this example, and in order to take advantage of this segmentation, we want to use different strategies for different kinds of suppliers. This is the key. So let's see what are the best strategies for each quadrant, each type of supplier. So for the non-critical or routine items, the best strategy, the recommended strategy, will be standardization of the product and proceeding to efficient procurement processes. So for example, if I can use 20 bolts or 20 kinds of bolts instead of 100, I can take advantage of the economic of scale. And the most important thing is that if I bargain hard and reduce the price of an element of an item that its cost is low, it will not be so efficient. But if I move from manual, costly purchasing processes to automated, efficient processes, this will be significant. Here, I achieve the advantage. So this is the recommended strategy for this group. As for the leverage items, in this case, as opposed to the previous, the cost and the spends are high. So we want to bargain hard in order to reduce the price. In addition, we want to coordinate the deliveries to the production plan. We want to avoid costly storage and generally to apply the just-in-time approach. So this is the recommended strategy for this group. As for the bottleneck items, they pose a risk for the production. So we want to reduce the risk. How can we reduce the risk? We can reduce the risk by first creating binding contracts, and more than that, by buying in advance, pre-buying items, and in this way, assuring that we have all the time adequate inventory that will assure continuous and smooth production without disruption. And finally, we have the strategic items and strategic suppliers. In this case, the recommended strategy will be to achieve high level of cooperation and create satisfaction. And I will elaborate about this satisfaction in a few slides. So let's focus on strategic suppliers. In the light of everything that I described here, the importance of the performance and the high quality and so on, we would expect that strategic suppliers will be outstanding suppliers with the highest scores for quality and on-time delivery. However, in practice, according to our experience, this is not always the case, unfortunately. So we want to do something about it. So instead of just pursuing the supplier and using sticks, we now introduce a new novel and holistic concept which states that we want to create attractiveness. We want to build trust and confidence. And we want to become a preferred customer. What does it mean? For example, if we compete against other customers, we want to be the preferred customer. How? We want the supplier to allocate his best staff for our project. I remember that when I started to work at Rafael, it was a long time ago, we needed the assistance of another engineering unit. And my boss sent me to this unit, but instructed me, no matter what they say, you ask to work with Ranji Botero, which was their best engineer. So this company maybe has a lot of engineers and so on. We want that they will allocate their best staff, their best team, their best engineers, their best materials, their best tools, and their best equipment and effort in order to provide us the best commodity and the best treatment. It is also very important. Also, in order to achieve the required high quality level, we need to win on the second frontier, which is the internal struggle between quality, cost, and time. So, based on extensive experience and on literature review and up-to-date research, we found what are the factors that have an impact on the satisfaction. Remember that I said, remember the satisfaction term? That have an impact on the satisfaction of the supplier with regard to us, the buying company. And this satisfaction is important in order to cause and reach high performance and high level. So we want to excel in a few fields and few areas. And these are strategic excellence, operation excellence, engineering excellence, and quality excellence. Now, let me drill down and bring a few examples of the factors that are included in each family. So, referring to strategic excellence, If we are a company with high reputation, the supplier will benefit from it as well, because his reputation will raise. For example, I was auditing a company that was a candidate for being a certified supplier for Rafael. When they told me that our certified supplier of Boeing, immediately they moved to a very high starting point. If we act in vast markets, then again it is an advantage for the supplier because it is an opportunity to enter new markets as well. If we have high economic resilience, then the risk for the supplier is low and his profit will be higher. If we have high stability, then the supplier can make long-term plans. Also, we want to be an example for other companies. We want to demonstrate high core values. We want to be trustful. We want to be a company that keeps its agreements and promises, not only in good times, but also in tough times, and in case of a problem, take the responsibility. We want to give the credit for the supplier, to the suppliers, because they are part of the success. And again, in case of failure, take the responsibility. And in general, to act in a fair way. Under the operation umbrella, we include procurement, production, support, and so on. So we start with the contracts. We want to ensure that the suppliers, we don't want to smash and squeeze the suppliers. We want to ensure that they gain fair profits. We need efficient and modern infrastructure, including ERP system and physical infrastructure for delivering data and hardware and so on. Communication is very important. For example, if I give my phone at the office and I am the POC at Rafael, and most of the time I'm out of office, then of course the communication will not be so efficient. We want to demonstrate responsiveness because the supplier always will have questions and problems. And if we don't respond quickly and in an agile manner, it will cause delays to the project and the satisfaction level will decrease. We want to have high engineering level, and again, the supplier benefits from it. We want to set high goals to the suppliers, challenge them, but be careful not to set too high goals. We want to address and solve problems and to let the supplier know that in case of, he can rely on us that will help him and solve the problem. And we want to work in an organized manner. Even if we have the best engineers and the genius scientists, if we will work in an unorganized manner, the satisfaction won't be too high. And documentation is very important because it serves for delivering our ideas and our requirements. In addition, it is important not to change the requirements and the documentation too often. The quality starts with the top management commitment and drills down to all the organization. Next, when we rate our suppliers, we have to do it in a fair and unbiased way. Of course, if the scores don't represent in a fair way the performance, it will cause frustration and decrease the satisfaction level. Training is very important in order to reach the adequate level and afterwards to maintain it. And we spoke about quality requirements, which are very important in order to set the quality level of the product. So we presented the factors that have an influence on the satisfaction of the supplier with regard to us as a buying company, and now we want to implement it. So first, build a procurement team. Since the strategic suppliers are the more challenging group for managing, allocate the best staff for this group. The team will be led by a procurement manager, but will be a multidisciplinary team, including engineering, including quality, including operation and so on. In addition, the contracts are complex and delicate, and therefore should be very carefully phrased and signed. Avoid copy-paste in a blind manner. Then build a joint team. This is a great way to achieve cooperation. So the team will include members from the supplier and members from the buying company. Then conduct an assessment and identify topics and issues to be improved. Set goals and prepare a plan, and control this plan by conducting management reviews. Next, all the knowledge that was presented here and more, and all the conclusion should be written in a QA procedure. So each factor that I mentioned here, in fact, is a mission for an improvement team. For example, if I said documentation, there will be a team for improving the documentation, for improving the suppliers portal, for improving the infrastructure, and so on. So this procedure is very important in order to document all our knowledge. Then train and follow this procedure. And finally, revise your strategy. If the risk is high, maybe we can reduce the risk. How? First, we can improve our design. Then we can use maybe other technologies. Look for partnership. Make-buy considerations. So all these considerations can reduce the risk. So next, our research at Rafael stands on two pillars. One refers to the suppliers and the other to the company. As for the suppliers, we deliver questionnaires and conduct a survey. The survey is conducted and delivered to a few officials. And as for the company, the buying company, we conduct in-depth interviews and collect data about the actual results and performance of the suppliers. So for example, here's a statement: working with the company creates high reputation for us. So this statement says for testing the relation between this factor of reputation and the level of satisfaction and the actual performance. So this way we scan all the factors. Here you see the questionnaires. And finally, since the respondents are required to indicate the level of agreement using a Likert scale from 1 to 5, so we gather all this data and analyze it by the SPSS software, which is considered as a leading software for this kind of application, and this enables us to build the full, complete model. So this is the model. It starts with the factors that have an impact on the satisfaction of the strategic supplier with regard to us as a buying company, and the impact of this satisfaction on the performance and on the quality. So at this stage, we can summarize. Let's summarize our journey in the half past an hour. We started with a short introduction and presented the importance of satisfaction. We started with the satisfaction of the customer, but shifted to the satisfaction of the strategic supplier. Then we introduced Carlich's method and metrics as a strategic approach for suppliers management. We showed that there are factors that have an impact on the satisfaction of the supplier, and this satisfaction leads to higher performance and higher quality. So these are my details. I will really appreciate your feedback, remarks, and if you have questions, I will be glad to answer. Yes?
For the companies that don't have quality management department or quality management person, how do you think those companies should approach for quality assurance?
So Raphael works with, we are in the defense sector, okay? It is very important, and we are under the AS9100 quality standard. We are certified to the standard. So our suppliers are certified, at least to ISO 9001, and in addition, and I'm talking about build to print and build to spec suppliers, they are certified by us. So we have what we call the suppliers team, okay? So all the suppliers are certified, and one of the requirements is that they will be also certified at least to ISO 9001, and that they will have a quality manager. If they don't have, they can use assistance of outsourced quality managing. But it is very important that they will have a quality management system. Yes. Thank you. Additional question, please? Yes. There's another question.
When you think about the organizational structure and the people that are primary contact with the suppliers, do you have an opinion about should that be a different team than the team that's purchasing?
You're speaking about the buying company, right? So no, I represented here a different approach, that this team will include, especially in a build to spec route, you need to have a high level of engineering in order to define and write all the specifications. So the engagement is very strong. In addition, you won't deliver a kind of document to the supplier without the assistance and the approval of the quality department. So all the departments has saying about this engagement and contract and so on. Okay, additional questions? Thank you very much.